everyone. Welcome to a My Footpath interview with a series of higher education experts in the field. I'm very excited today to be with Dr. Bridget Yuhas. I'm Luke Schulteis. I've spent a career reading, writing, researching, practicing, and presenting on enrollment management, and I'm presently a senior advisor for My Footpath. Dr. Yuhas, welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Dr. Yuhas is Director of Student Affairs Assessment and Strategy, as well as the Executive Director of the Institute for Wellbeing at Butler University. So I want to kick off right away. We hear a lot of it, especially today, the term well-being. Can you share with our viewers a little bit more about that important concept?
Sure. I actually love this question because it's really good to start off using the same language before we jump into all the details, right? So well-being really has to do with sort of a holistic approach. Wellness is sort of individual focused and maybe focused on behaviors or focused in one area, like your mental health or your physical health or spiritual health. So that's kind of wellness, like individual, more focused kinds of programs or services or approaches to the way you live your life. And then well-being is a little bit more holistic, and it incorporates all of those dimensions and more. And it can be really integrated into your place of work, place of living. It has to do with the people around you, the environment around you. And all of those aspects of wellness are going to go together to create your well-being, and you're going to have some great well-being in some areas and some lower well-being in some areas, and that is totally normal and fine. The idea is really just to approach it holistically, because all those areas of wellness really do integrate with one another and kind of build on one another.
Awesome. Why is it important for a university student to understand their well-being, and also for an institution to understand the well-being of their students?
Absolutely. For individual students, it's so important to understand their well-being because it really influences their entire experience. So being able to have strong well-being, at least in some dimensions, most of the time, allows you to really engage in the life of the institution academically, co-curricularly. We've heard so much coming out of COVID about social isolation and stressors that students are feeling in terms of mental health and physical health. And being able to balance those challenges with other areas of well-being, because it is kind of a holistic approach, really helps students to be able to think about their approaches to stress management, be able to integrate the things that they're learning in the classroom with the experiences they're having outside of the classroom, and really see it as one whole experience. And then on the university side, there's a ton of research actually about how investing in student well-being really increases outcomes that universities are interested in, like retention, higher GPAs, higher engagement of students on campus, and then as alumni. So there are a lot of really good reasons for institutions to invest in student well-being beyond the fact that this just feels like the right thing to do, right? We want to support our students and we want to make sure that they're thriving, but it also helps the bottom line, which we're also interested in as institutions. So it really is a win-win.
That's great. I'll talk about assessment in a few minutes. You've got a very deep history in measuring lots of important things related to students. How mature is this field insofar as its practice on campuses?
I think that the field is maturing even as we speak. So a lot of these conversations about the role that well-being plays in higher education and the involvement that institutions really should have in student well-being sort of started bubbling around 2018 here in the United States. With NASPA and NERSA and ACHA, all of our professional associations getting together to talk about an inter-association definition of well-being and sort of a white paper on how institutions should be thinking about this work and integrating it into all aspects of the institution. So the inter-association definition has been updated. More than a dozen professional associations have signed on with that. And so it's really kind of evolving, growing, getting more folks on board, which is exactly what we wanted to see. There's also the Okanagan Charter, which was signed in Canada in 2015, and that really talks about the role that institutions play in not only the well-being of folks on their campus, but in their communities, in the environment around them. And a lot of institutions are signing on with that as well. So we've got kind of a couple of things bubbling along here. And folks are really interested in figuring out how to make this work outside of the health center, outside of the counseling center, which might be kind of our traditional ways of thinking about like wellness and well-being. But our work has really acted on the fact that well-being takes place everywhere on campus. Everyone has a role that they're able to play in this. And it's not just mental health. It's not just physical health. It's all these other elements that kind of come together to really make a holistic experience and help support our students wherever they are on campus.
That's great. It can be such an isolated place for students, even if commuters, to be, there we have all these different, imposter syndromes, the sense of belonging. Am I smart enough? What am I doing here? Can I make it? Am I going to have friends? We all know what it's like. So you have been involved in the assessment field for quite some time, going back to NESE. And I just want to maybe talk a little bit about the differences between NESE and the Student Wellbeing Institutional Support Survey. Do you call it SWIS, or is that just
Yeah, it's kind of a mouthful otherwise.
So those of us who have used NESE, I think as practitioners, we'd be looking for sort of the aggregated student reaction to services that we offered. And it was benchmarked against other institutions because it was so widely used. So we'd be able to say, well, this office isn't doing as well as, much of the country, or last 2 years ago, we were at this level and now we're above or below as far as students' perception is. And maybe we'd act on it, maybe we wouldn't. But the Swiss is different. And in looking at some of the results you have shared, it really provides, from my perspective, the student with some sort of feedback, I guess it is, some self-recognition of what's going on. And for the institution, it does the same. And does Swiss provide recommendations on how to make improvements and things like that? Tell us a little bit about Swiss.
Sure. Swiss was developed to measure Butler University's framework for student well-being here. I had gathered a ton of information on campus with some homegrown assessments, and then looking at things like NESE, ACHA's National College Health Assessment, sorry, and a couple of campus climate measures as well, and trying to kind of stitch all of those together and make one intelligible report about student well-being on our campus was tough. And so I wrote Swiss to give students a chance to tell us not how well they're doing or what they're doing as individuals, but rather how well we're doing or not as an institution, and to really give them an opportunity to give feedback about how well Butler was supporting them across all the dimensions of well-being. So I wrote that, and then word kind of got out around NASPA and NERSA, and some other institutions were interested and asked if they could administer it at their campuses. And I said, sure. I mean, the whole idea was to help practitioners, help institutions be able to better support and better help students. So I thought the more the merrier, right? Like if we can get this going at other campuses, that would be fantastic. And so now it's grown to about 30 institutions, a couple more, and more than 30,000 students have responded. So we're getting this nice data set of kind of getting the landscape for what students are thinking broadly about how well their institutions are supporting them along the lines of well-being. And I gave that approach, or I started that approach, because so much of what students have going on and what they bring to campus when they matriculate, that there are things that we can't ever change. There are things that we aren't going to be able to control. And I was interested in trying to give our practitioners some information in their realm of control. Like, there are things that we can ask about and get information about that you can then take and make changes or celebrate your successes. And being able to have that kind of level of actionable information was really helpful for our practitioners here at Butler, and has been useful for folks at other institutions, which has been really good to see.
That's awesome. Some surveys target certain types of students. I'll call them, first year students and last year students, or some just send it out to everybody. Is there a specific target market of students that Swiss surveys?
No, it's really open to all. I do have a way to disaggregate by class level or by graduate student, that kind of thing. I'm working with a system of professional schools right now, so we're going to try it at these professional schools and see how that goes. I've worked with community colleges. That went well. Primarily commuter campuses and residential campuses. So it's meant to be flexible and to really get the information from students, no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing, about how well we're doing, because we're kind of the constant here as practitioners and administrators. We're able to make changes and then monitor those across a longer time frame than maybe a typical student might be on our campus.
Great. When you share these survey results with the institution, is there an ability for the institution to isolate certain types of students? Let's say everyone in a major or everyone
Sure.
that's either whatever.
Yeah. Actually work with Qualtrics. I have a license with Qualtrics that allows all of my clients to log into a data visualization dashboard. So they can see all of their results. They can filter them by student characteristics, demographics, class year, major, all of those things. And then they're also able to see the aggregate of everyone who has participated in Swiss that year. So you can kind of look at what's happening on your campus and then see how it compares to what's going on nationally, to get just kind of a ballpark of where your students might be falling in terms of their perceptions of the support for well-being on your campus. So it's helpful. I think the most interesting results are the ones for each campus individually, but it is also helpful to kind of have a little bit of a larger context, I think.
Great. Have you seen any trends in the data? And let's hear what they are.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that folks seem to feel like institutions are struggling a little bit with is still fostering some of that social connection. Even though we're a couple of years out of COVID, the students that are coming into campus now are traditional age students, missed out on a couple of years of building those social connections in their high school years. And they're really struggling with how to make friends. We hear it all the time. I'm really interested in connecting. I just don't know how to do it. So we're getting the feedback that we need to be a little bit more prescriptive rather than hands-off in terms of helping students facilitate those connections. We actually work with a vendor called NearPeer that helps to connect incoming students with students who share interests. So before they even set foot on campus, they're already connecting with folks who share interests or classes or majors or residence halls. So that takes a little bit of the anxiety down a notch. So they already feel like they have a few connections once they arrive on campus. We're also hearing a lot about financial literacy. So our students are telling us that they're stressed out about finances, and that they don't feel like our institutions are supporting them in terms of learning about wages, salaries, benefits, what you might do in a negotiation, how to manage a loan, all of those things. That is consistently nationally ranked one of the lowest measures on the survey is institutional support for financial literacy. So those things to me feel like low-hanging fruit that we can address pretty quickly to really help give a major impact to our student experiences. And again, because well-being is so holistic, when we lower the anxiety on some of these other things that are outside of traditional mental health or physical health, it actually really positively affects both mental health and physical health, because we don't have these other things that are stressing students out as much, and it gives them a little bit more room to breathe and to relax. On the positive side, there are plenty of positives as well. We really see a lot of student recognition of the academic environment for exploration of ideas and being challenged in the way that they're thinking about things and being asked to critically think about the positions that they've taken and feeling supported in maybe questioning some of those things and thinking through and just making sure that they have created really well-supported arguments for the way that they're thinking. So a lot of those nice core higher education things that we all try to do, students are really seeing that. And that is very gratifying and a wonderful thing to celebrate, I think.
That's super. I've seen that in my own life as our children are going off to college, and you know, you pick up the phone and you're hearing a different person on the other end of the line.
Absolutely. Yes. Isn't it amazing?
Things like that. I'm like, wait, I'm the dad, you
Hold
know.
on.
Nope, I'm myself, Dad. Um, Fascinating. Um, I've been involved in assessing non-cognitive variables for some time, and part of what has been fun is when you identify an area of lower strength, let's say,
Mhm.
and it's empowering the student to start building some self-efficacy so they can, you know, persevere in the face of adversity. Are there some tools that Swiss has or can equip institutions with to help the students help themselves?
Sure. There are a couple of measures on Swiss that talk about um, learning about self-empathy, learning about resiliency, learning about being able to explore your own identities and being able to recognize and value the identities that other people bring. Interestingly, a lot of students are telling us that they feel like the institutions broadly are really invested in issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, which is good, right? We want that. We want everyone to feel like they're able to be their authentic selves on campus. Where we're seeing a little bit of a dip is support for some of those more self-growth kinds of opportunities. So learning how to be resilient, learning how to maybe pivot when one of your goals is just not going to be able to be attained. Learning how to have empathy for yourself when things don't go as planned. Those are things that students are telling us that they'd like to see a little bit more of. And so what that means for institutions is really gathering folks who have expertise in teaching some of those things, in interweaving them into the co-curriculum and the curriculum, and really making a cohesive effort across campus to show students that you can do these things. We're here to show you how you do them in academics, in social experiences, in co-curricular experiences, in athletics. And give them a place to practice that and really learn those skills so that they can feel like they have a solid skill set when they graduate and go off to all kinds of broader and bigger experiences, right?
That's great. And you mentioned near peer a
Yes.
second ago. We had an interview, and it's in our interview library on the website at myfootpath.com. Two institutions in California utilizing it. So it's great to hear about how there are different partners throughout the country
Yeah.
that can really help with student development. I guess the final question I've got before I ask you what I forgot to ask is if I was interested as a university leader in implementing Swiss, who else should be involved in the implementation, the assessment, the discussions around you know, analyzing the results and developing solutions? What's that group kind of look like?
Sure. Um, it varies, right? Institution to institution. Um, Oftentimes, the folks who are leading well-being efforts on campus are the ones who sort of take the charge in championing an administration of Swiss on campus. We've seen that come from student affairs, from recreation and wellness, from academic affairs sometimes. And whenever you're able to kind of broaden the base of who is excited about this, it's all to the better. Because then when results come in, folks already have a little bit of buy-in and they're really interested to see what students are saying. The thing to get folks on board, in my experience, has been really talking about how well-being is everyone's role on campus. It's sort of like retention or diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's everybody's role on campus to help our students navigate well-being, to provide our programs, services, our facilities with well-being as our primary lens, and to really kind of get folks on the bandwagon of saying, like, I don't have to necessarily change everything that I'm doing. What I should do is think about what I'm doing in a new way. Think about it through the lens of well-being, and it doesn't take more hours in the day. It doesn't take more budget. It just takes reorienting our thinking, and then being able to use the results of SWIS, which are meant to be very user-friendly, to inform that practice going forward. We can use those results to more efficiently use our resources, to celebrate areas where students are saying that we're doing a good job, and to really tell the story about well-being on campuses with a data-informed lens, which for resource holders and decision makers, that's always going to be something that they're interested in. So again, broadening that base of folks who are excited about learning about student feedback from their areas in terms of well-being, it can really kickstart a great momentum on campus. I know at Butler here, we had a group of stakeholders who are really just everyone who programs on campus. We meet, we talk about how we can get out of one another's way a little bit, because like many other places, Butler over programs, and that is something that we, can take on ourselves as an action item to kind of, again, try to lower the stress on students, try to minimize the FOMO that they may be feeling. Like, if we are able to sort of synthesize our offerings and be more efficient in the way that we're delivering our programs and services, then that helps us as practitioners, and it helps the students to have a more streamlined experience while still getting the things that they need. So again, a broad base and folks who are invested in student well-being, those are the keys to success, really. And we've seen it work here at Butler and at other institutions. So if other folks are interested in administering SWIS or working with the Institute for Wellbeing, we are always open to trying to help other folks make the student experience at their institution even better.
That's fantastic. And what a good time to be able to help an individual sort of do a self-assessment and start, working toward better well-being, if you will.
Absolutely.
And we all wish we had these things when we were going to school.
I absolutely do. It would have been great.
Right. Dr. Yuhas, any closing remarks on SWIS or well-being, important issues that I may have overlooked?
No, I think we covered a lot of really good territory here, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to chat with you. It's been a wonderful talk.
Thanks. Learned quite a bit. Sounds like a really great resource. Thanks so much for the work you're doing. And we hope everyone who has interest will reach out to Dr. Yuhas over at Butler University. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.